Hello again, everybody. My name is Colin. This is Chicago Reacts, and today I'm going to be watching Napoleon's Great Blunder, Spain, 1808. This is, of course, from the YouTube channel Epic History TV. This is the fifth or I don't know. I watched a few of these Napoleon videos here, so I'm learning a lot about Napoleon and his conquest over Europe. If you haven't seen any of the previous videos that I've reacted to, it seems to be in chronological order, so based on the series of events. So if you haven't watched any of those, I would recommend going back and catching up on where we are in history. Because it's all very interesting stuff. I'm certainly learning a lot. I didn't know a lot about the details, or at least I know I learned about this in school, but a lot of this is new to me, and a lot of it I've really forgotten. But yeah, I'm learning a lot about the strategies and how all that developed and changed, particularly during this war. I guess one of the fascinating things that I learned in a previous video was Napoleon's innovative restructuring of the troops with the different corps and whatnot. A question that I keep bringing up in these videos is how did they communicate so quickly, and while during battles, or to plan and surround the enemy and all that stuff? Like, how did they do that back in the day without quick transit messages? Like, because at this point, what's it called, Morse code hadn't been invented yet, or the means to do so. So I don't know how they did it, other than maybe like pigeons or sending people on horseback. But it's all fascinating to me that they were able to strategize like that effectively during this time period. But anywho, that's enough talking for me, I think. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want to continue seeing more content like this. And with that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? All right.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration, supported by our sponsor, Osprey Publishing. In the autumn of 1807, French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte dominated Europe. He had humbled Austria and Prussia, and sealed an alliance with Russia. Of the major powers, only Britain still defied him, safe from invasion thanks to its powerful navy. Napoleon had ordered all territory controlled by France or its allies to stop trading with Britain, the so-called Continental System, or blockade, designed to wreck Britain's economy and force its government to make peace. But neutral Portugal had continued to trade with its historic ally Britain, so Napoleon sent an army under General Junot to occupy the country and force it into line. The invasion was supported by France's ally, Spain, though privately, Napoleon held Spain's rulers in contempt. The Bourbon royal family was decadent and corrupt. The king and crown prince loathed each other, while the country was effectively run by Chief Minister Manuel Godoy, the Queen's lover. Spain, Napoleon concluded, was backwards, militarily weak, and incompetently governed, and he devised a plan to seize control of the country.
After a long agony, your nation was perishing. I have seen your pain, and I am bringing you a remedy. That doesn't sound encouraging, given the context. I would take that as a threat, which I assume they did here. So, yikes.
In the spring of 1808, under the pretext of guarding Spain against the British, French troops took up strategic positions around the country. The Spanish people saw the French military presence as the latest in a long line of humiliations, and held Chief Minister Manuel Godoy responsible. There were riots at the palace of Aranjuez. Godoy was nearly lynched. Napoleon invited the Spanish royal family and Godoy to take refuge in the French city of Bayonne, and sent Marshal Murat and 50,000 troops to restore order in Madrid. But on the 2nd of May 1808, the people of Madrid rose up against Murat's soldiers. It became known as the Dos de Mayo uprising, immortalized by the artist Francisco Goya. This scene shows Mamelukes of Napoleon's Imperial Guard attacked by the citizens of Madrid. 100 soldiers were killed.
Wait, the who?
French
Hang on a
responded.
second. So he sent who?
This scene shows Mamelukes of Napoleon's
Mamelukes?
Imperial Guard attacked by the citizens of Madrid.
What is that? What is Mamelukes? I'm like not even saying it correctly now.
Imperial Guard attacked by the citizens shows Mamelukes of
Mamelukes. I don't know what that is. I don't think I've ever heard of that. If they don't explain it in a second here, could someone let me know down in the comments if you know the answer to this? They seem like got like the turban going on here, so seem like maybe more like a Moorish type of people, perhaps. I truly don't know. Yeah, if you know who these people are, like where they're from, I guess specifically, like let me know. Let me know who these folks are. Thank you.
Of Napoleon's Imperial Guard attacked by the citizens of Madrid. 100 soldiers were killed. The French responded ruthlessly, shooting down dozens in the streets and executing more than 100 by firing squad. Meanwhile, in Bayonne, Napoleon forced King Carlos to abdicate and bestowed the title King of Spain on his own brother, Joseph.
I really should have been writing down all the brothers that Napoleon had, because I feel like Joseph has already been mentioned in a previous video, but the other videos have explained that, as Napoleon conquered certain areas, that he put his brothers in charge of ruling those areas, and there's been at least like 3 or 4 at this point. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have been taking notes this whole time. This is basically it is a learning channel, so I should be taking notes. It's not like I'm going to be testing on it, but I don't know. I'm not the best at naturally retaining a lot of information like this, so maybe I should be taking notes. How many brothers does Napoleon have? I can easily Google that for myself, but just for fun, why don't you put it in the comments? Make you do the work, right? No, I'm sorry. I'll look it up later. Okay, wait. Who is the enemy of your happiness? Napoleon, Emperor of the French. What is Napoleon's origins? From evil. I mean, if I were anyone other than a French person at this point in time, I'd probably feel the same way.
That summer, as Napoleon forced a new modernizing constitution on Spain, and his brother Joseph entered Madrid as its new king, the Spanish reacted with fury.
Oh, really?
The French weren't just arrogant foreigners trampling on their national honor. They were godless atheists who, during the French Revolution, had rejected the Pope and Catholic Church. Napoleon, priests warned the peasants, was the very Antichrist himself. Revolts erupted across the country. The Spanish army was joined by militias and partisans who attacked French troops and killed collaborators. French soldiers carried out savage reprisals. No mercy was shown. The countless atrocities horrified Francisco Goya and led to his famous Disasters of War series. At first, it seemed the French would easily put down the revolt. Girona, Valencia, and Zaragoza were besieged by French troops, while the Spanish army of Galicia was routed by Marshal Bessières at the Battle of Medina del Rio Seco. But 8 days later, as General Dupont and 3 French divisions withdrew from Córdoba, slowed down by wagons piled high with loot, they were surrounded at Bailén by General Castaños' army of Andalusia and forced to surrender. The Spanish took 18,000 French prisoners, about half of whom later died of starvation.
Damn. Wow.
Berlin was a humiliation for France, her first major defeat since Napoleon became emperor. France's enemies across Europe were delighted. Napoleon was incandescent with fury.
Right. So this is the first major loss from France since, at least since this series began. The beginning of Napoleon's conquest over Europe. But because it does seem like in the previous videos I've watched, it's been victory after victory after victory. But I don't recall being mentioned many minor losses, really. It just seems like just win after win after win, which, if I were Napoleon, I'd be probably getting a big head too, if I was just rolling over Europe like it was nothing, but yeah, I don't know. I think I would have liked to have heard a little bit more if there were any kind of like losses, small or whatever. But yeah, this certainly seems like a pretty embarrassing major loss for Napoleon. But yeah, let's learn more.
The situation went from bad to worse. The Portuguese joined the revolt, while fierce Spanish resistance forced the French to abandon the sieges of Valencia, Girona and Zaragoza.
Valencia.
Spain's new king, Joseph Bonaparte, was even forced to flee the capital. The British assisted the revolt, which the Spanish now called a War of Independence, by shipping weapons to Spain using the Royal Navy. On the 1st of August, a small British army commanded by Sir Arthur Wellesley landed in Portugal to aid their revolt. On the 17th of August, he beat a small French force at Roliça. Then, 4 days later, beat Junot's main army at the Battle of Vimeiro.
Yeah, maybe I'm forgetting something, but it does seem kind of surprising that it's taken this long for Britain and Spain to maybe put their differences aside and like try to help each other out in the name of preventing Napoleon from taking over everything. Because I know the British and Spanish history is, what's the word I'm looking for? Troubling, a little spicy. Yeah, they've not quite gotten along too well, have they? So it just, yeah, you'd think they'd want to join forces against Napoleon at least, but maybe their relationships is just too frayed for them to have done anything, come together until this point. I know they're in Portugal right now, but you'd think the British would want to help out the Spanish push back France, right, at this point, but I don't know. Yeah. If you have any ideas of why it's taken them this long, if there was any, I don't know, big recent developments between Britain and Spain during this time or before this time, yeah. I don't know, what was that question? I kind of went off rambling there, but my point is, it just seems surprising that it's taken this long for them to team up against Napoleon. But anyway, let's keep going.
But Wellesley's newly arrived superior, Sir Hugh Dalrymple, then agreed to repatriate Junot and his army to France, with all their arms and plunder, using British ships. In Britain, the generous terms were seen as a disgrace and scandal. A subsequent inquiry exonerated Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington, but Dalrymple never held command again.
Yeah, that's basically the equivalent of, so I don't know. Don't send a foot soldier in, for a job that you should do yourself, right? So what is that? It's a phrase. Never send a so-and-so to do something that you should better do yourself. I don't know. What is today? Today, I'm just really struggling with the words and phrases at this point. I'm sorry, but yeah. I understand. Napoleon is pissed. He's, people around him are failing him left and right.
Napoleon decided the only way to sort out the situation in Spain was to go there himself. He assembled 130,000 reinforcements, including many of his best troops, and on the 7th of November led a second invasion of Spain. Most Spanish troops were inexperienced, were often badly equipped and led, and their armies had no coherent strategy.
Wait, wasn't Spain like one of the strongest armies before this? Or am I thinking like way back during the more like the 1600s? Like I thought they were a force to be contended with. What is this? Like that's surprising to me based on my limited knowledge of Spain and Spain's military during this period. But yeah, I thought they were stronger than that.
They were no match for the Grande Armée, which burst across the Ebro River and inflicted heavy defeats on the Spanish at Burgos and Tudela. At Tudela, Marshal Lannes' Third Corps avenged the defeat at Bailén by smashing the army of General Castaños, sending it fleeing in two directions. Napoleon pushed on rapidly. North of Madrid, 8,000 Spanish held the mountain pass at Somosierra. Napoleon, impatient to break through to the capital, ordered forward the Polish Light Horse of the Guard. In an attack of almost suicidal bravery, they charged the Spanish guns head-on and enabled the French to take the pass. 4 days later, after Napoleon threatened to obliterate the city, Madrid opened its gates to his army. Unaware of the disaster engulfing Spanish forces, a 20,000-strong British army, commanded by Sir John Moore, had just arrived in Salamanca after a 300-mile march from Lisbon, with another smaller force en route from Coruña. The British army was inexperienced, but in contrast to most Spanish forces, it was well-trained, organized, and led.
Wait, did he even say the British troops were
organized Spanish? The British army was inexperienced, but in contrast to most Spanish forces, it was well-trained, organized, and led.
Yeah, see, that's like really surprising to me, because I thought, but I mean, before Napoleon, I thought the British were known to have like, or maybe was it just their navy then? Because I know they had like the strongest, largest navy in the world at this time, right? Am I wrong? I'm probably totally wrong, but that just seems really surprising to me that they are being described as inexperienced.
As news reached Moore of the Spanish collapse, he nevertheless planned to divert French forces by attacking Marshal Soult's isolated Second Corps and threatening Napoleon's communications to Burgos and France. At Saguin on the 21st of December, the British 15th Hussars advanced overnight through winter frost and made a dawn attack on a French cavalry brigade, routing it in one great charge. But as Moore prepared a full-scale attack on Soult's corps, he received news that Napoleon was advancing rapidly towards him with his main army from Madrid.
Sword to their kidneys.
While two French corps under Marshal Lannes began a second bloody siege of Zaragoza, Napoleon saw a chance to get to grips with the British at last. Intending to trap Moore between his own forces and Soult's Second Corps, he force-marched his troops over the icy Guadarrama Pass in the midst of a blizzard. Moore, facing odds of more than 2 to 1, immediately ordered a retreat, planning to march 250 miles to the coast, where his army could be evacuated by the Royal Navy. For both sides, the race to the sea was an exhausting slog through mountains, mud, and bitter cold. Many fell by the wayside as British discipline collapsed, leading to looting and drunkenness.
Oh my god. Look at those, like the painting, this guy's feet here.
As British discipline collapsed.
Look at that. His feet are just wrapped in bandages. They're not even any shoes. God damn. Wow. I mean, I assume that's not just for the painting's purposes of telling a story, being dramatic like that, but I assume that was an actual thing that people had to deal with back. God dang. I mean, I guess at least it's not hot, because I know, wet feet is not a good thing. And if they're walking in like snow and mud, oh God. How do you not amputate your feet after that? Jesus. Oh.
Leading to looting and drunkenness, except among the rear guard, which fought several skillful delaying actions and kept the French at bay. Soldiers of Britain's elite 95th Rifles were prominent in these skirmishes. This specialised light infantry regiment wore green uniforms for better concealment, and were one of the few units on any side armed with rifles. Unlike the standard smoothbore musket, rifles had spiral grooves in the barrel that spun the bullet as it was fired, making them slower to load, but much more accurate. In one legendary incident during Moore's retreat at Cacabelos, rifleman Tom Plunkett picked out and shot dead a French general at 400 yards, some say further. Thanks to the skill of the rearguard and the desperate pace of the retreat, the British kept one step ahead of the French. On New Year's Eve, Napoleon received grave news from Paris. Rumours of plots, and Austria mobilizing once more for war. The Emperor immediately left for France, taking many of his best troops with him, and entrusted Marshal Soult and Second Corps with finishing off the British. The pursuit continued, but on the 11th of January 1809, Moore's ragged army reached Corunna. For Sir John Moore's exhausted army, the Spanish port meant supplies, rest, and the prospect of rescue. But few ships were there to meet them on the 11th. Fortunately, the British had been able to blow up bridges behind them to delay Marshal Soult's advance. And 3 days later, on the 14th of January, the naval transports arrived, allowing Moore to begin embarking his cavalry and artillery. But the very next day, Soult's army appeared on the hills south of Corunna, taking up positions on the heights of Peñasquedo, where he sighted his main battery of cannon. Half of Moore's army deployed in a defensive line 2 miles south of the city, with 2 divisions held back to protect his right flank. Both armies were roughly 16,000 strong. The French had 4 regiments of dragoons, while the British cavalry was already aboard ship. But the broken terrain of walls, hedges, and olive trees made it a battlefield ill-suited to cavalry. Soult's plan was to attack the British right flank and trap Moore's army against the sea. Around 2 p.m, the French artillery opened fire. Then Mermet's infantry division advanced, supported by Lahoussaye's dragoons on his left.
Okay, so one thing I've kind of struggled with some of the maps, like I really appreciate the visuals, but I'm struggling to understand the scale. Like this still, like what they're showing here on this map seems like it's still a pretty zoomed out view, and I know these troops represent thousands of people, but what is the distance between the red and blue here? Like I know they're starting the battle and firing, but are they really? I mean, I'm sure cannons have that kind of range. Like that still seems like at least a few miles distance, right? I mean, so I guess my question is like, how close were they in these battles before they started firing? Because this, to me, it sounds like it looks like a really large distance. Maybe I shouldn't be getting too caught up on that, but like, if this scale is accurate, and say this is like, I don't know, like to me that looks like 1.5 miles, 2 miles at least between the two groups here. Is that accurate, or am I wrong? Like, someone help me out here. let me know. Just like, what were the distances? Not specifically this group, but like in general, like in battle, how far away or how close did they need to get before they could start firing? I guess is my question. Someone help me out, please.
Moore had been unsure if Soult would attack, and had just ordered Paget's division to begin embarkation. Now he hurriedly cancelled that order, ordering Paget instead to bring up his men to reinforce his open flank, and Fraser's division to take up position on the heights of Santa Margarita. The French advanced through hedges and over walls, with heavy firing from skirmishers on both sides. Then the British counterattacked. The 42nd Highlanders and 50th Foot charged into the village of Elvina and drove the French out. But in confused fighting, they in turn were soon pushed back to their own lines. Sir John Moore was close to the front line, observing developments, urging on officers and men. But as he ordered up the Guards Brigade to reinforce the line, he was hit in the shoulder by a cannonball.
Ooh.
He remained conscious, but it was obvious the wound was fatal, and he was carried back to the city.
Good Lord, imagine being shot by a fucking cannon and still being awake for that, like, it not taking you out immediately. Jesus Christ. By the way, have any of you guys seen, there's like a suit of armor, or at least like the chest plate, that they still have on display in some museum, and it shows a cannonball like going through the chest, like I think on the right side, just completely obliterating the chest. Just imagine, I don't even want to imagine that. That's horrifying and disgusting, imagining what happened to the body that was wearing that armor. That's pretty intense. Like how insane and graphic war is, especially during this time period. I don't know. But I think I'm glad that they have that chest plate on display for us to have that, to let our imaginations run wild and maybe reflect on just how horrific all this shit is.
Soult sent forward Merle's division to support the attack on Elvina. Scottish General Sir John Hope had taken over command of the British Army from the dying Moore, and he ordered forward 2 battalions of infantry to meet the French attack. Paget's division, led by skirmishers of the 95th Rifles, arrived to shore up the British right flank. The terrain was so bad for horses that French dragoons chose to dismount and fight on foot, but were slowly pushed back by the British. Paget's advance threatened the flank of Mermet's attack on Elvina, and he too was forced to withdraw, while an attack on the right by Delaborde's infantry secured a foothold in the village of Piedra Longa, but got bogged down in heavy skirmishing. Around 6 p.m, dusk fell, and firing died out across the battlefield. News that the British line had held reached Moore shortly before he died in Coruña, around 8 p.m. That night, the British lit campfires and posted sentries, then silently withdrew to Coruña to begin embarkation. The next morning...
That's an interesting strategy. Like, at nighttime to make fires to show, or at least to make them think that you're still there, and then sneak out. That's clever. That's clever. Because I know, you want to limit how much light you're giving off you don't want to give away your position, but it's clever to do that as a ruse. Right?
French found the enemy positions abandoned, but they were slow to take advantage. It wasn't until noon that they were able to bring up 6 cannon and get them into position overlooking the Bay of Coruña. The British had almost completed their evacuation by the time the French guns opened fire. In a hurried departure, A few British transports ran aground, and 2 were set on fire, but overall, losses were light. A small Spanish garrison held Coruña, waiting until the British fleet had escaped to sea, before surrendering.
Hope my gulping isn't too loud on the microphone. I hope the people of England will be satisfied. I hope my country will do me justice. The last words of Sir John Moore. Was it though? I mean, at least he got the news that they, held the line before he died. That's nice.
Whether Moore's retreat to Coruña was a British disaster or miraculous escape is still debated. And did he abandon Spain in its hour of need, or draw off Napoleon's main force, buying time for others? Either way, Britain's only army had been saved, and would return to fight another day, while Napoleon now faced the prospect of a long war on the Iberian Peninsula, and renewed conflict with Austria, a war on 2 fronts that would challenge his empire like never before. Napoleon had blundered in Spain, but it was years before the scale of his mistake was evident. Then he would say, "I embarked pretty badly on this affair, I admit it. The immorality showed too obviously. The injustice was too cynical. The whole of it remains very ugly."
So wait, what is he saying there? Is he saying that immorality showed too obviously? Is he referring to his own troops and their actions in Spain? Like the injustice was too cynical. The whole of it remains very ugly. So like he admits that he did a bad job, that he blundered there, but is he saying it's because they were too immoral, too cynical? Is that what I'm gathering from that? And then and if he is saying that the immorality showed too obviously, is he saying that like the immorality, a certain level of immorality is required for this type of venture, but if you are too obvious about your immorality, then it is that going to inspire people to like fight back harder? Is that what he's saying there? If so, that's like a really interesting level of self-reflection, but still, he doesn't seem to be completely against behaving too immoral, or he doesn't seem to be against acting immoral to a certain point. That he's willing to accept or behave in a certain way that is a certain level of unjust and with a certain level of cynicism. Man, Napoleon sure was a interesting, complicated fellow, wasn't he? I don't know. Am I interpreting this correctly? I don't trust myself, so if I'm wrong, just tell me. Yeah, let me know. What do you think about this particular quote?
If you'd like to learn more about the Peninsular War or any of the campaigns across Europe, our sponsor Osprey Publishing has nearly 200 titles on the Napoleonic Wars, written by specialist historians and covering everything from the history of elite units to tactics, weapons and uniforms. Visit their website to find out more. Thanks to the YouTube channel History March for the battle map and animation sequences, and to the 95th Rifles Reenactment Society for the use of their photo. Most of all, thank you to our Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. If you'd like to join their ranks and get access to exclusive updates, previews, and polls on future topics, please visit our Patreon page.
Okay.
An Epic History TV History March collaboration.
Oop, that's going to the next video. We don't want that yet. I think, or was it starting over? Anywho. Well, that was another interesting history video here. Certainly had a lot of questions on that one. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I guess I should, given my question about the scale of the maps that they were showing there, I guess I need to go to History March. Maybe there's more info on that there. Um, if I haven't personally checked out that channel yet, but if anyone who's watching this video has checked out History March, why don't you tell me a little more about it and if you would recommend it? Obviously, Epic History TV does. I'm like, see that one of the hard things or challenging things about doing videos like this is, I'm basically at this point I'm assigned videos to react to, and so like I get introduced to really interesting topics that I do want to go and explore more on my own, but I have to hold back because I might be asked to react to a video like it like that for this channel. So like I gotta hold back I gotta hold back my curiosity, I guess. But go check out History March, I guess. Epic History TV collaborates and recommends them, so why not? But yeah, so that was, again, another interesting video. If you do enjoy watching this type of content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We do appreciate that here. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And I'll see y'all next time. Thanks.